If you're like me, you love racing games that feel heavy, grounded, and a little bit sweaty, the kind where your car's weight shift actually matters. The Switch never had a massive sim racing lineup, but the gems it does have can look and feel surprisingly real, especially when you dial in the handling and stop treating every corner like an arcade drift. And with Switch 2 versions and compatibility upgrades popping up, this niche is finally getting some love. I also pay a lot of attention to games that lean into realistic lighting and detail, the same vibe I talk about in my ultra-realistic graphics picks. This is the one I've been waiting for on Switch 2. Grid Legends already nails that sweet spot between realistic handling and pure motorsport drama, and the Deluxe Edition being on Switch 2 means you can actually enjoy the spectacle without feeling like the hardware is holding it back. The cars have weight, the bumps matter, and when you tag another driver, it feels like metal meeting metal, not toy cars bouncing. I'm also a sucker for the variety because you're not stuck doing the same type of event for hours. One minute you're in touring cars, next you're wrestling something faster and way less forgiving. It's not a hardcore simulator, but it looks sharp, feels intense, and it's the closest thing on Switch 2 to a big modern racing package. Grid Autosport is still the "how is this on Switch" racing game. It leans more serious than most racers on the system, and the driving feel is believable enough that you can actually practice braking points and lines, not just vibe your way through corners. What I like is how it respects different styles. You can run circuit racing, endurance, street events, and it all feels like the same game, not a random mini-game collection. The sense of speed is great, and the handling is confident once you get used to it. If you want a realistic racing game on Switch 1 that doesn't feel like a compromise every second, this is the safe pick. It's also perfect for handheld because it's easy to jump into a few races and still feel like you're making progress. Rally is where realism gets spicy because the road is never perfect. WRC Generations is all about fighting the surface, reading corners fast, and managing grip that changes every few seconds. On Switch, it's one of the more serious options for rally fans, and it's got that proper WRC vibe with licensed cars and stages. What sells it for me is how it punishes sloppy driving. If you come in too hot, you do not just lose a second, you can totally ruin your run. I also like the sense of progression, tweaking setups, and learning how different cars behave when the traction disappears. If you play it on Switch 2 through compatibility or improvements, even better, because rally games benefit a lot from smoother performance and cleaner visuals.
And left 3, into, right 4, into, left 3, medium.
Wreckfest is realistic in a different way. It's the physics. This game makes crashes feel nasty, like you can actually feel the chassis bending and the steering getting worse after a big hit. I love that the damage is not just cosmetic. It changes how your car behaves, so you start adapting mid-race. The racing itself is chaotic, but it's not random. If you drive smart, avoid the worst angles, and pick your moments, you can win consistently. It's also one of my favorite messy realism games because the tracks feel like they were built for contact, and the AI loves getting rowdy. When you get a clean lap in Wreckfest, it feels earned because the game is always tempting you into disaster. Great for quick sessions and even better with friends. Rush Rally 3 is the sleeper hit that I keep recommending to people who want realistic driving without paying AAA prices. It's rally and rallycross focused, and it feels way more legit than you'd expect at first glance. The grip model is solid, the cars respond nicely, and once you start pushing, you realize the game is quietly demanding. I also like how readable everything is. You can tell when you messed up your entry, when you're sliding too much, and when you're actually carrying speed correctly. It's not trying to be flashy, it's trying to feel good, and that's why it works. If you're a handheld player, this one is perfect, because you can squeeze in a couple of stages and still get that real driving satisfaction. If you want realism that makes your palms sweat, this is it. The Isle of Man TT is famous because it's terrifying, and Ride on the Edge 3 captures that energy better than most bike racers. You're flying down narrow public roads, threading past walls, poles, and corners that come at you way too fast. What I appreciate is how it forces respect. You cannot just full send every section and hope it works. You have to learn the course, manage your speed, and stay smooth. When you finally string together a clean run, it feels amazing. Bikes also have that unique balance feeling, where tiny inputs matter, and this game does a good job making you feel that. It's not for everyone, but if you love realistic motorcycle racing, it's a must-try. MotoGP 25 is the modern licensed bike racing fix on Switch, and I'm happy it exists because bike racers always feel a bit underrepresented on Nintendo. What I like here is the track racing discipline. You're learning braking markers, lean angles, and exit speed like you would in a car sim, but with that extra layer of risk because bikes punish overconfidence. The career side is also a nice hook, since it gives you a reason to keep improving instead of just running quick races forever. If you're playing on Switch 2 through compatibility, it's the kind of game that benefits from extra smoothness, because timing and stability matter a lot at high speeds. For anyone who wants a realistic circuit bike game on a Nintendo system, this is the easiest recommendation. Drifting games can be super arcade, but CarX actually leans into technique, which is why it makes my list. You're not just swinging the car sideways and praying. You're working throttle control, steering angle, transitions, and trying to stay consistent through a whole run. When it clicks, it feels awesome, and it's surprisingly satisfying to improve little by little. I also like that it's built around drift culture, with online play and a vibe that feels more like a community than a single-player checklist. On Switch, it's a cool option if you want something realistic-ish, but still approachable, especially if you're tired of pure circuit racing. It's also one of those games where a small setup tweak can completely change how confident you feel, which is very real car energy. Gear.Club Unlimited 3 is not trying to be the strictest sim on Earth, but on Switch 2 it scratches that real car passion itch. I'm talking about collecting cars, tuning them, and driving through races that feel more grounded than your typical arcade racer. The vibe is very much about car culture, building your club, and enjoying the machines, not just blasting through a cartoonish campaign. That's why I included it. Sometimes I want realism in the details, the way the cars look, the way the handling has a bit of weight, and the sense that I'm actually working through a garage of rides. It's also nice to have a Switch 2 racing game that is built for the platform, instead of being a compromised port. If you love cars as much as racing, keep an eye on this one. Test drive is the dream for a lot of us because it's not just racing, it's lifestyle driving, cruising, and treating the world like your personal car playground. Solar Crown has that identity with the whole online car culture angle and a big setting built around showing off your rides. Now, real talk, as of now, the game's Switch version has been messy and has not actually landed the way people hoped, with reports pointing to the Switch release being uncertain. So I'm including it here as the realistic racer I want on Switch and Switch 2, not one I'm confidently telling you to buy today. If it does arrive properly, it could be a huge win for Nintendo racing fans who miss that open road, chill but realistic driving fantasy. Alright, that's my top 10 for realistic racing on Switch and Switch 2. If you want, tell me what style you're into: rally, circuit, bikes, drifting, or pure chaos, and I'll make you a quick start here shortlist for your taste.